I mean, you could put it into the deck. You just can't use the companion effect. Which, by the way, how confusing would that be to people? They would never see that coming.
Mainboard Yorion.
What if you could? Oh,
Yeah,
Can you do that?
mainboard Yorion.
Just, have one in the sideboard as your commander, and then the other three just mainboard.
I don't see why you couldn't.
Welcome back to the Unreal Salt Mine. As always, I'm your host, Labuschagne, and today I've not only brought back James Krake, but after one of my friends said, man, I'm getting real tired of hearing James Crake's voice, I decided to bring on another guy who sounds completely different. Because that way, one guy, you can still enjoy the content, but now you can listen to somebody from Wales complain about MTG too. So welcome, Tom. It's good to have you on the channel.
oh, let's go. That's not my voice. I'm sorry. Carry on.
Okay, so James, you were telling me earlier that you somehow got whipped at F&M again. Why?
By myself, I found out the reason I was wrong after the fact. Modern F&M, I'm playing my 8-whack deck. It's a lot of fun. 8-whack is a lot of fun. It's brainless, it's great. But you get blown out by Chalice of the Void, right?
Yes.
I was up against the resident Tron/Jund player at my game store. He's blown me out with Chalice of the Void before, so game 2, I bring in Smash the Smithereens, which is basically my only answer to Chalice. And game 2 was just, I bricked, I never drew enough lands, whatever. Go to game 3, because I'm the one that won game 1. And I'm sitting on Smash the Smithereens, watching him play the weirdest, dirtiest, Grixis control mess of Kalitas and Tasigur ramp. I'm just I have no idea what this deck is. I'm just going to continue hitting you in the face with goblins. And I got him all the way down to 3 life. And I had Smash the Smithereens in hand. I was just this is bizarre that he hasn't played a Chalice yet. Or any artifact. He hasn't played Urza's Saga. He hasn't played anything that I can target with Smash the Smithereens. No Ragavans. Nothing. So I'm just sitting there with Smash the Smithereens with a dead card in my hand. I board it in. You deal with just the blowouts. He never played them. He just beat me to death with a Tasigur. Because he was playing a fucking Pioneer deck.
You got duked.
I lost to a Pioneer deck because I boarded in answers to cards he didn't have.
You got juked, and it wasn't even a juke. I mean,
oh my god, dude, he was playing Maestro's Charm. I was like, what? What is the point of this deck? I don't understand. Then I lost.
James, you have only yourself to blame for that. I'm not even going to blame the madman who brings a Pioneer deck to F&M, because clearly it's doing something.
We're playing on another level we can't even think about.
So the thing is, with the current state of Modern, I literally can't name a deck, except 8-whack, that doesn't run artifacts. Now, maybe they're not important to remove, but everyone is going to make an artifact at some point.
Yeah, if you cut Urza Saga and the monkey, everyone will probably make an artifact. I mean, does Burn make artifacts? Oh yeah, Burn runs the monkey.
The monkey's hard because they can just sack it in response, and Smash the Smithereens doesn't work. But technically, they play artifacts if they're playing the monkey.
Oh man, that's just kind of humiliating, actually.
Yep, especially because it knocked me out of getting my money back for the tournament.
Wait, in your F&Ms, do they give you a refund if you win?
It's $5 to play, and if you go 3-1, you get $13.
And my F&Ms, if we win, we just get a booster pack. If you get first place, it's a double Masters booster pack. That's it.
I mean, do you pay to play?
Yes.
Oh, my score is better than yours.
Yes, objectively it is. It's look, if you want to know about my store, I left, went to Kenya, did this whole expat arc thing, came back, the store had moved to a shittier location 5 blocks down the road. The exact same guys were working there. Neckbeards untrimmed. And I think, well, gee, this place is shit. I bought some dice and never went back. And then, I'm on Discord, which is in fact the platform we're using to record this. And I am on Discord about 3 months ago, and I'm talking to some guys, and they're commenting, yeah, you know, the F&M scene in SA has really gone downhill. I mean, I got first place last week, and the name of the store didn't even give me a Masters pack. They were out. I'm thinking, hey, are you the cashier? And he says, yeah. Are you that asshole who plays Bogles? And I say, yes. It's a pretty tough environment, man. Really, really is.
Do you go to F&M Tomondo?
I do, and the last time I won an F&M tournament, I won a playmat, so maybe on another level to you guys.
However, how many playmats do you need? I think the maximum one player needs is 4. That's the amount I have.
So this was a double masters draft, and I think that's precisely the reason I won. Everyone else was just drafting all the cards from double masters that they liked the look of, and I was probably the only person who tried hard because I actually wanted the playmat.
You're just being a sweaty tryhard. Is that it?
Everyone's got to be a sweaty tryhard at least once in their life, feel good about it, and then they can just retire into playing garbage joke decks for the rest of their days.
I mean, fair enough.
I can respect that.
But speaking of something that's pretty tryhardy, and now this isn't just personally because I lost to a Yorion deck the other week, but it is that. Man, fuck companions.
Okay, so I'm the resident devil's advocate here. There's nothing wrong with companions aside from the fact that they're trying to make constructed into EDH. I have all the companions pulled up, with the exception of Lurrus, which is banned in Modern apparently. These companions are shit and they're overcosted. The only problem with Yorion is the other cards in the format, like Solitude.
Right. So you say. I mean, the only companions I think that actually saw play were Lurrus, which turned out to be just brutal.
I mean, yeah, just looking at that, you gotta ask what design was doing.
Yeah, Yorion, which is, like, good, but only in the right deck. I mean, Gigantha and Kahira saw some play in relevant decks.
Yeah, tribal's shit right now, though.
Yeah. No, what you do with Kahira, you don't play it in Tribal. That's the trick. It's a big brain thing. You don't play Kahira in Tribal, because why would you do that? Because Tribal shit. And, I mean, cats...
I think companions are a cool design.
I agree. I just don't think it should be limited to creatures.
Yeah, I think they're a cool design. I think the problem is when you're in Modern, like, you're supposed to have some kind of deck restriction for them, right? But when you're in any internal format, it really just becomes trivial to do that. Like, if they could somehow print them standard only, I think they'd make for a pretty fun standard for 2 years, and then they cycle out, and by that time you're sick of them and never see them again.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's fair enough. I mean, what I was saying with Kahira is that the only decent tribe that actually buffs is Elementals, and Elementals doesn't need +1/+1 in Vigilance to win games. What you do with Kahira, and here's the big brain move, you play it in decks that don't actually run creatures. Because
at any point Kahira blocks Solitude. Oh my god, that's disgusting.
Yeah, you can just teleport in. I mean, granted, 6 mana is a price to pay. But over 2 turns, you can just teleport in a Kahira to your 8-rack deck and say, haha! It's like 8-rack, it can run Kahira. It shouldn't, it doesn't help, but, I mean, in, like, Pox Shells, Kahira is a viable play to just completely surprise somebody with. Because they know you have the companion. And they're going to sit there waiting for you to play a creature, and then suddenly whack them with a 3/2 Vigilance. It's fun.
Okay, so quick rules question. Did they errata how Companion works or something?
Yes, they did.
Okay, because I'm on Scryfall, and I'm reading the card, and it just says you can cast it from outside the game, but then you read the Oracle text, and it says you first have to pay 3 to get it to your hand, and then you can cast it.
Yes, that's true. The original Companion thing where they actually just worked like commanders was really fucking overpowered, because then you could just immediately Lurrus on turn 3 and start getting value with, baubles or whatever you want to do. So all the companion cards were errated. The entire mechanic was changed because it sort of basically set Vintage and Legacy on fire. They actually had to ban Lurrus in Vintage before the errata. That's how broken the card was. It was banned in the format which doesn't ban things.
It is currently legal in Vintage, not Legacy.
Yeah, no, that's just a power level thing.
Did they unban it post errata?
Yeah, it was unbanned post errata. It's just like with the speed that Vintage plays at, 6 mana is a hell of a lot more than 3. So in 3 mana, Lurrus immediately recur all of your cheap artifacts. That just wins games. But 6 mana Lurrus do the same thing is so slow that even with shitty Vintage removal, it's not scary. But Legacy, on the other hand, yeah, Lurrus gets out of hand very, very quickly in Legacy.
So here's my question, right? Was the errata too harsh? It was fair, but like the power level at 3 mana is just so much worse of all of them that it doesn't seem worthwhile playing them most of the time.
The thing is that for most of these, except for Lurrus and Yorion, and maybe Gyruda, but I have something to say about Gyruda later. Like, they're basically all overcosted for their ability anyways. Like, most of these cards are just bad. Olbosh the Prey Piercer. If a source you control with an odd converted mana cost would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage to that permanent or player instead. There are other red effects for 4 mana that don't have the mana cost restriction that do that. Like, why is Olbosh even ever worth playing?
I guess consistency is the argument, right? The fact that you can always get it.
Yeah, it's consistent.
I mean, I guess, but Zirda, how do you even build a Zirda the Dawnwalker deck? Even if you don't have to pay to get it in, what are you supposed abilities you activate that aren't mana abilities cost 2 less to activate. This effect can't reduce the mana to that cost to less than 1. What is a 3 mana activated ability that would see play with Zirda?
Eldrazi Displacer.
That's a ETB, not a triggered ability.
I think we might be talking about the wrong card then. Look, let me just pull this guy up.
Oh, I'm thinking of the wrong one.
Yeah, no, it's the white Eldrazi. Well, the white cost Eldrazi, it's devoid. And pay 2 and a colorless to exile another target creature and turn it to battlefield tapped. You blink it. This gets hilarious with Containment Priest. I mean, hell, it's good with things like Solitude too. But it also just begs the question, why not play Yorion instead of Eldrazi Displacer and have a better companion?
Yes. But again, Yorion is exactly as good as the blink targets, which are currently insanely good.
Yeah. You can blow somebody out with a Yorion. I mean, it's kind of like being beaten up by a guy in clown shoes, because you can see him coming. You know he's coming. It's like he's got a bell. And then he whacks you anyway, and you think, oh, well, saw that one coming. Yorion is like that. And it works, because the clown's that powerful.
All right, so what I think they should have done is, instead of errataing the mechanic, they should have errated the cards to say that these are companion 3. Say, these creatures cost 3 to put into your hand. Other companions might cost 1 or 2 or 4 or something.
Oh, so then you could, tick up the cost on, Lurrus to nerf it, but you could keep, the shit companions for free, because, exactly. I mean, I'm not really worried about anyone whacking me with a Karuga the Macro Sage anytime soon.
I think what happened was there was no reasonable way to do that on already printed cards.
Yeah, because people just get into ridiculous arguments about what the companion cost of Umori is.
I mean, yeah, they just really screwed up on building this mechanic the first time. But I don't think the idea of pulling from your sideboard is a problem at all.
No, I mean, wish cards are viable. Wish cards are kind of fun. But Then again, wishes are also, I mean, it's the same thing essentially. You pay like 3 mana to cast a spell in your sideboard. So I think that's what they were going for with the 3 mana on the companions, is it's like staple wish to this card.
So what I wonder is, maybe it's just always the case that any companion card will either just be crap or broken. It's very consistent, right? It's like on your turn 3, you always draw Lurrus. It's kind of like that if you imagine like drawing it from the deck. And like any other card is always like balanced by the fact that it's sitting in your deck somewhere. You might draw it, you might not, right?
Right.
And a big part of deck building is obviously trying to build consistency. So like, I don't know. As we're saying, they either seem to be broken or they seem to be underpowered. But like, what would a balanced companion card look like?
What started this conversation in the first place was I conjectured that what they were supposed to do was print a cycle of companions that specifically say if the color identity of every card in your deck is like at most black, at most red. However, they'd have to word it for. If you're playing a mono-colored deck, this can be your companion. Because right now there is basically no viable mono-colored decks.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
And that's like an actual restriction that you can't just get around.
Isn't Death and Taxes a viable white deck?
Death and Taxes runs green.
What the hell is green in Death and Taxes?
Last time I saw Death and Taxes, it was running what's the Ravnica elemental that makes the elemental when it dies?
I'll bring that up in post.
Am I thinking of hate? Am I confusing it with Hate Bears?
Yes. Hate Bearers is green-white because then it can also run the Kithkin that makes things more expensive to cast, or stops you casting them. I'll put that up on the screen. Hate Bearers and Death and Taxes are very similar, and people often confuse them because at various points in the meta they are just the same deck, depending on how good the green is. But yeah, Death and Taxes is mono-white. It runs like Talia, it runs Leonine Arbiter, it runs the bird that stops you searching your library. It runs all of those really annoying white cards.
Fair enough. And for record, as the 8-whack player, 8-whack is mono red.
Yes. Burn is mono red.
No, Burn is not mono red.
When is Burn not mono red? What the hell is happening with Modern?
Boros Charm.
It's bullshit, man. I stopped playing the format for like 5 years and it changes.
Boros Charm was printed like 7 years ago. It's played because it makes your like Eidolons and your Goblin Guides indestructible if you need to hit for lethal, or it's forward to the face. It's like the perfect burn card if you're using creatures, unlike me.
Well then.
It also lets them run Lightning Helix as a bolt option that helps. Like Boros Burn beats non-Boros Burn because of Lightning Helix.
All right, I get it. I look like an idiot online because I don't know the modern meta. We've established this. But anyway, you were saying.
Oh my god! No, hold on. Death and Taxes. I just pulled up a list. It's not mono white because it has Yorion in the sideboard.
But you just have 2 white pips for Yorion. It's mono white mana reducing.
Jesus Christ! I didn't even realize I was looking at a Yorion list right now.
Like anything could be a Yorion list.
Yeah, it's just an oversized deck. That is hardly a restriction.
Yeah. I mean, the only place I've really found Yorion decks to actually get punished for, being Yorion decks is sideboarding. Conveniently looping us back to what is actually not a tangent, but a cleverly engineered excuse to talk about the real topic of this episode. But the thing with Yorion decks is they have 20 more cards. And if you're just playing a good deck, that doesn't matter because all your cards are good. But the problem is if you have to sideboard against something really obnoxious like graveyard decks, then you really need to draw the sideboard cards or else you just lose. And, that's difficult enough with a 60-card deck, but once you add that extra 20 cards, the percentage to actually draw your silver bullet becomes so much lower.
True, but like Yorion lists don't care at all about Murktide, for example, because they're running Solitude. Solitude just eats.
They're running Yorion.
The Yorion decks I've seen between Solitude, March of Otherworldly Light, Free Fairy, and so on, like they really don't care about some of the big meta decks. They don't need a sideboard. Their main board deals with them reasonably well.
Okay. What's the matchup between Omnath and Yorion? What's that look like?
Really depends. So, like, for the record, I see a lot of Omnath decks running Yorion.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Well, why not just put Yorion in your Omnath deck? Just make it cost more money.
Oh my god, Yorion's only a $5 card. Not even. It's like a $4 card.
It's like on Scryfall, it's a $3 card. Yeah, you can get it for $3. Plus shipping, obviously, but that's not bad actually.
Okay. So increasing the size of your deck does dilute your ability to get silver bullets. If you feel the need that you need silver bullets, which, like, I guess Living End can hose them pretty good, right?
Yeah. But I mean, that's also why you play 3 Fairy.
Yeah. Most of these effects, though, I just don't think are properly costed. Or let me rephrase that. The effects, like the restriction to the deck, is either irrelevant, such as Kahiri. Basically, like you can jam it into weird like decks that don't even run creatures.
Yeah.
Although I will say that Gyruda's effect actually makes it because it doesn't have other cards to work with. Gyruda is like actually useless. If you had switched Gyruda, which says your starting deck contains only cards with even converted mana cost, with Obosh, which is the one that needs odd converted mana cost, because Gyruda needs to hit odd, because every card worth digging through your deck, and for the record, the rules text of Gyruda is, when Gyruda enters the battlefield, each player puts the top 4 cards of their library into their graveyard. Put a creature card with an even converted mana cost from among those cards onto the battlefield under your control. Now, that can hit Eldrazi. Like that is the only way that you can win the game with Gyruda, because I'm pretty sure like Emrakul has even costs.
No, they have odd costs. The Kozileks have even costs. So you could whack a guy with Kozilek. That's something you could hypothetically do if you really wanted to.
But the problem is, like, the support cards you'd want to put it into, because like you'd want to be blinking Gyruda to keep getting that effect.
Yes.
And if you're running blink effects, you want other cards that benefit from blink effects, such as Solitude and Muldrifter, both of which cost 5.
Yeah, and Ephemerate, the archetypal blink card, costs 1.
Yeah, so
The Muldrifter cost 4?
Nope. 4 and a blue.
Costs 5. Gyruda could have been, good, but it's just objectively not, because the restriction sucks.
Yeah, the restriction actually disables Gyruda.
Okay, here's one. Here's the secret meta I have just figured out. You play it in Commander, as the commander, because then you don't have to worry about the companion restriction. And then as your companion, you play Yorion.
You can't. Yorion isn't in Gyruda's color identity.
Ah, shit. Well, okay, you play Gyruda as, the commander. But at that point, you're actually just playing EDH, unironically, which sort of defeats the purpose of this. I swear, like, viable in Commander is a death sentence for any card. It's the biggest cope.
Pretty much.
Yeah, you can show somebody Ink Eyes and they'll say, but it's viable in Commander. Oh, so it's just not good.
So I think we kind of agree that they just really screwed up the cost and design of this cycle, but the wish mechanic has a lot of potential. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's
I don't know.
fair
I'm
enough.
still tempted to think that you can't make one of these truly balanced, and I can't think of what it would look like.
I think the monocolor ones, hypothetically.
I do like your idea of monocolored ones, because it would be nice to have more monocolored decks playable. I guess the question is, right, what do you think they were trying to push with these companions? Like, what were they actually trying to do?
They were trying to get EDH players to play Constructed.
I think that's another real screw up because they put them in, the monster set. And I mean, you do get people who waifu monsters, but like the people who are into archers, I mean, that's not the kind of archer they're into, not into Lurrus. So, well, like with this, I think if you just made companions big boob anime girls, you would have people who would dementedly try and make them viable. But nobody's like trying to make Lurrus viable. They should have put this in Ravnica.
Lutri the Otter. Just going right for the furry option, I see. Okay.
I was actually making this whole joke about, otters because otter is like slang for like a twink but hairy, which apparently exists.
First I've heard that slang. I don't exactly go in those circles. The thing is, like, Lutri is just a reverberate effect, and reverberate has literally never been viable.
No. It's like, oh, you can flash it in and bolt somebody twice. That's not good.
It's almost like the problem there is an inability of good targets to copy. Imagine casting Lutri in a format where Treasure Cruise was still allowed. That would be worth it.
Yeah, you could do that. I mean, my idea would just be to cast one of those huge fuck off is it spells that's like, Nutbuster 3000. If your opponent got less than 8 hours of sleep, you win the game. And they all cost like 13 mana. But at that point, you still have to get it into the graveyard in the first place.
No, it's not in the graveyard. It has to be on the Lutri copies from the stack. Which means you need to be able to cast the big fuck off spell and have 3 mana for Lutri. Or like, well, actually, I guess if you really wanted to, you'd be running an Aether Vial deck. So you vial it in response.
I mean, at this point, why not just like put one of the reverberate cards on an Isochron Scepter and actually accomplish something?
Good point. Yeah, Lutri is. I think we'll agree that Lutri is shit.
Yeah, no, it's especially disappointing because the first time you read it, you think, wow, this is actually, you could have a cute deck with this. And then you read it again and you think, no, I can't. So, I mean, 3 mana out of nowhere for a Reverberate isn't good, but like, hypothetically, you might as well shift your deck in that direction anyway. I mean, I could envision it, maybe you could do that in Vintage, like Time Walk, Lutri, second Time Walk, that would be a blowout, but no Vintage deck could actually do that.
I think there's one kind of deck we've not talked about.
Oh, what's that?
Just 100 lands, and then you can play all the companions at once. Just like bam, get good value.
You can only have one companion at a time.
Unfortunately.
Wait, is that actually part of the rules?
You can only choose one. Like I said,
that's
this is literally
man.
to get commander players into normal formats.
I mean, why can you not play more than one companion at once? It's not going to break the game, is it? It's not going to make them suddenly really good.
It's your companion, man. You can't cheat in your, cat.
I mean, you could put it into the deck. You just can't use the companion effect. Which, by the way, how confusing would that be to people? They would never see that coming.
Mainboard Yorion.
What if you could? Oh,
yeah. Can you do that?
Mainboard Yorion.
Like, just have one in the sideboard as your commander, and then the other 3 just mainboard.
I don't see why you couldn't.
I mean, I don't think that would be good, but you could do it.
And one problem is it's a legendary, so you probably wouldn't go up to 4.
Like, my closing thought on this would be, that is also another problem with the companions is, unlike commanders, which live in the command zone, you don't have unlimited sideboard slots. You have 15. And if you're playing competitively, each of those sideboard slots has to actually be devoted to a card which could save your ass, which the companions are not guaranteed to do. So you've got like 14 sideboard slots, and you hope your companion will, make a difference.
Yep. All right. So as we're closing, I want to propose something that they shouldn't restrict themselves to creatures. Something else they could do with this restriction, with this entire premise, is like if your companion is an answer, like smash to smithereens or some effect thereof. because like you know that your deck gets annihilated by say Leyline of Sanctity. If you told burn players they could have a companion card that literally just is like, I don't care how expensive it is really, as long as it removes Leyline of Sanctity and I can get it when I need it, every burn player would immediately buy that and play it, and they would stop getting blown out. Like, Hammer Time was replaced Affinity, but like giving Affinity a spell to get rid of stuff like Stone Silence.
That sounds fun, but the problem is, why don't I just do that in the other deck and just beat up on whatever you're doing? Like, why don't I just put the hate cards in the good deck already, instead of putting the hate cards in the deck which needs the help?
Yeah. Perhaps that's a conversation for next time. Because we've already hit half an hour.
Yeah, if we keep talking any longer, it's going to be delayed another 2 weeks while I try and gather up the willpower to edit it. So, yeah. This has been the Unreal Salt Mine, episode 2. Thanks, guys, for coming on.
Have a good time.
Thanks for joining, Tom.
Cool. So, yeah, until next time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Cheers.
See you around.
I may have gone too far in a few places.